Hi, everybody. Welcome. Good evening or good morning to those of you who are in Asia. I'm Cecily Cook, and I'm ACC's Director of Grantee and Alumni Relations. And we are thrilled to welcome you tonight to tonight's In Dialogue with members of the SUNY Gitameit Myanmar Spirit Worship Project. Asian Cultural Council's mission is to advance international dialogue, understanding, and respect through cultural exchange. With current limitations to international travel, we are really excited to be able to connect with you through this platform. Tonight's lineup of talented musicians have devised a completely virtual online international cultural exchange program involving master musicians from Myanmar, students and faculty at SUNY New Paltz, and an extended community of traditional dance and music practitioners in Yangon who are working together to explore and unpack the ways in which spirit worship in Myanmar permeates music practice and daily life in the country. This project, which launched in July, is planned to take place over 2 years, and it's supported by ACC and the result of conversations between the program organizers and ACC, all of whom are committed to continuing to carry out international engagement even while the pandemic precludes the possibility of travel. For more detailed information on this project and the individuals who will be speaking tonight, I encourage you to look at the link that is provided you in the chat room. But very briefly, I'd like to introduce tonight's 4 panelists. Kit Young is a musician, composer, teacher, organizer, passionate advocate for connecting via culture across borders, and the director of the Gitameit-SUNY Myanmar Spirit Worship Project, which is at the center of our discussion tonight. Kit began learning sandaya, a unique form of Burmese music played on the Western piano, via cassettes in 1986, when travel to Burma was all but impossible. While living in Yangon from 2003 to 2008, she co-founded with Burmese colleagues the Gitameit Music Institute to help younger Burmese musicians navigate a creative path to music making in a closed society with limited opportunities. Kit and Gitameit have been ACC's partners in connecting with artists in Myanmar since the early 1990s. Alex Pei is a performer, improviser, and associate professor of music at SUNY New Paltz, who explores the intersecting realms of contemporary music, improvisation, and performance. He traveled to Myanmar on an Asian Cultural Council fellowship in 2019 to study Burmese sandaya piano, the art form he had begun learning from his mentor, percussionist Kyaw Kyaw Naing in New York. Together, Alex and Kyaw Kyaw Naing have established a Shangwang Burmese percussion ensemble in the United States at SUNY New Paltz, the first in the country. Nemyo Ong is a sandaya musician, dean of the Gitameit Music Institute, a Fulbright Fellowship recipient, and an ethnomusicologist who received his MA from the University of Washington. Originally from Tamu in Chin State, Nemyo began his sandaya studies with Kit Young and others at Gitameit beginning in 2003. He is active as a composer, arranger, and performer, and he is the Yangon coordinator for this project. Finally, Kyaw Kyaw Naing is a Burmese classical musician, composer, and master of the patwang, a circle of pitched drums that is a legacy of Burmese court culture and the Buddhist folk traditions. Born in Yangon, Kyaw Kyaw Naing served as the director of the Burmese National Sang Orchestra from 1984 to 1994 and has toured internationally, performing in major venues throughout the world. Since moving to the US in the early 2000s, Kyaw Kyaw Naing is regularly sought out for his knowledge, teaching ability, and excellence as a performer. Without further ado, I'm turning the conversation over to Kit, who will serve as tonight's discussion moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecily. Thank you, Miho. Thank you, ACC family and friends and everybody who's gathered this evening. It's really exciting for us to be able to share with you our SUNY Gitameit exploration of spirit worship in Myanmar. So spirit worship is common to Southeast Asia, to many cultures in Southeast Asia, but not spirit worship, that's N-A-T, is uniquely Burmese. It's a belief system coexisting with Buddhism throughout Myanmar's history. It's an everyday performing, supplicating culture of music, trance, dancing, and offerings to the Nat spirits who respond through mediums as channels to the supernatural. At Apwe, a performance, sculpted images of the 37 Nats are placed on an altar. And on the altar also are auspicious coconuts and banana bunches and flowers from worshipers and the sponsor of a given Nat troupe. Better business, good health, daily problems are among the boons asked for from particular Nats through the mediums. In the last 50 years or so, Nat worship culture in Myanmar has offered a safe space for members of the LGBTQ communities that sometimes find bias in many other areas of society. Every Napwe is accompanied by musicians in a drum gong ensemble known as a sangwang. Much of the music is composed for the Nat ritual order. And today I'd love to share with you and beckon your ears and your eyes on two videos. So the first video that we'll hear is and see are images that Nemyo has sent us from Yangon and Napwe music. That gives you a taste. The second video is extremely exciting. You'll see the musicians that have been taught by Kyaw Kyaw Naing at SUNY play a piece that they've been working on in July and August and recorded very recently in an ensemble called the Nine Ensemble that Alex will share more with you about, and Kyaw Kyaw Naing will too. So let's listen to that. This is a song that is done as a propitiation offering at the beginning of a Napwe to the Nakoji Jo. So the dancer you saw in the last image is Ting Ting La, and she is Kyaw Kyaw Naing's wife. She's a dancer and singer. And the movements she was doing for the recording and the video were movements that are used in Napwe. So not choreographed danced exactly, but there are specific movements for specific knots, and she was sharing those with us. So Cecily has introduced us wonderfully and our roles in this. So I want to move on and start with Alex, who I'd like you to tell us, Alex, a little bit about collective plans at SUNY and just sort of your shaping of not just this collaboration, but ideas about exploring online and how we can move forward.
Sure. So our plans began with Jojo Naing, and he arranged his beautiful version of Gojijo for us. It's a special version, something that was part of his family legacy, and he taught it to us. And it was a very intense process from July until last week, where we did that recording. And my brilliant colleague, Lauren Meeker, who is a visual anthropologist and Asian studies professor, she filmed the entire process of learning Gojijo, kind of capturing American impressions, the way that students kind of approach Burmese music, and especially Napwe music like this, and how they learn. And she's working with ensemble member Allison Hummer, who is very involved in the film process with Lauren, and they are collaborating together to create a film, an ethnographic film on the learning of Gojijo, and interspersed with interviews by musicians about what the way they receive this, the way that they understand it, from a musician's point of view, as well as from a cultural perspective, their thoughts on this. So this film is going to be embedded in a 2-week collaborative virtual unit, a kind of a space in which SUNY New Paltz musicians, Jojo Naing, our ensemble, Gitameit musicians, scholars, Nakudos, musicians, dancers, we're all going to kind of collaborate and be able to kind of share our resources and kind of be in dialogue together. And this collaborative space is going to be like a 2-week unit that's going to be embedded in Lauren Meeker's course, Anthropology of Performance. And so it's going to be open to SUNY New Paltz students to learn, and part of the way that we teach online. So it's super exciting.
So just to add to that, we're sort of in the first phase. We're very new,
right.
Actually in our second month. What are some of your feelings about this being online? In a space that will continue that. You mentioned you had this great idea to ask the students for sort of a reflective blog as we go along, kind of a journal. Mm-hmm. What is it like? What is Burmese like, and music like, and learning this whole new environment of
right. I mean, I think it's so important. Like, online learning is like the norm now, right? It used to be not the norm, but now we're looking for ways to leverage that power and that way of learning. I mean, right now we're having Zoom meetings with people next door, or in our own town. But how powerful is it that we can collaborate internationally? We can actually hear from Burmese musicians and dancers and speakers about Napwe, that can really enrich and enlighten our curriculum. So it's been really exciting, actually, to be able to do this online project, to start it as an in-person experience, a music making experience, and then kind of move this as we proceed through the project into the virtual space where we can really collaborate like this.
So I want to stress to the audience also that we're 4 sandhya players, 4 pianists, coming and expanding the scope of how you would come into a music. And I think all the time about the scholars that write about this. It's wonderful what they've done outside and inside. There's much writing on Napwe in Burmese by wonderful Burmese writers. But aside from a few, very few people really listen to the music and the relationship between entrainment and the vibration of drums and gongs and what that means as a musician and how we respond rhythmically, which is why this idea of a blog by the students would be great.
Where they would reflect on their experience. And what's amazing is they would reflect on their experience and share it in this shared space. And these students will now be able to listen to interviews with Nakados and listen to musicians and dancers in Yangon, live. We were thinking that this would be an asynchronous as well as a synchronous space where there would be a big Zoom meeting with Nakados, spirit priests, dancers, musicians in Yangon, communicating and making real relationships with our students and talking to them about what they do in music and dance. And this you wouldn't really be able to get without this kind of online platform. I think this is like the best way that one could leverage online learning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's a great moment where I can ask Nemyo Ong, Dean of Gitameit Institute and Sandhya player, what are some of the elements of this project that you are going to undertake in Gitameit? Just help our audience kind of see what the Gitameit side.
So from our side as a Gitameit Institute, we recruit a team member, and we will go and see the Nagaro and a spirit medium and non-musicians, and also like people who in this industry, like makeup artists or Napue, and also like some people who devoted in their whole life worshipping this, nut, and also like other people who have never, like in this industry, but still in Myanmar, and they somehow like keep in touch with this tradition. So by studying and observing and asking about what they think about this nut worship, I think it will also reflect various point of view and ideas depending on their diverse background. So that people and also like Sunni and also other people from Myanmar can also benefit from this. How was it look like, and also the life of Nagaro, and also nut music and nut atmosphere and industry.
That's so exciting. So can you tell us a little bit about your perspective on Sunni being involved? So you have American musicians learning about Napue. That's a bit different than anything we've experienced before. What is that like for the Gitameit community?
I think it's very huge difference for us. But usually, like those kind of like this kind of traditional music or traditional dance or like spiritual worship is usually far away from nowadays people, the new generation. So like as a Sunni student studying this kind of tradition, it will encourage our younger generation to some extent. They might think oh, we have this tradition near us and no one study, no one never noticed this. Now people from far away countries are studying this kind of tradition. Why not we just look at it? Like why should we stay away from it? It's not like you have to be in this business and you have to really believe in this kind of stuff, but at least trying this kind of tradition just to know what is it, so that later you can decide whether you would like to do it or not. You can also approach this tradition from not just from religious perspective, but also from like intangible cultural heritage inside.
That's great. And on the Myanmar side, do you see platforms like Facebook, probably because that's so generally used, as a means to further get more ideas as we move through this first stage and into next different ideas? We're evolving this project, which is so exciting. How do you see the internet being a part of moving it forward? How can you spread the news, I guess? What do you imagine?
Yeah, like any other country, internet is very powerful, especially for a country like us, which was recently opened. So this is the fastest way to reach out to people and to learn from others, and also to share what we have, especially Facebook here. Many Burmese people use. So I think it's very easier for us to keep in touch with the musician, the performer, at the same time share their work to the world.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Jojo Naing, it's
Yes.
so great. It's so great to have you. It's been amazing what Jojo Naing has done for all of us. And I just want to add that as a pianist, I've been working with Jojo Naing online, another online project, in the last 4 months, in the COVID months. So it's been terrific. I would like to ask you, what was it like to teach American musicians at SUNY the Gojijo piece? How do you feel?
It's very good. I really go about teaching and sharing Burmese music to American students. It might be hard at first because they are not familiar to the sound for the Napue music. But everyone works so hard, so little by little, we make so much progress.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about the memory? How difficult it is to memorize to learn
Yeah.
by ear?
Yes, they are. I teach little by little, so they are hard to remember. But next day they something forget, something remember. But I teach again, so next day they are confusing. So I take their phone and I take the video and the shortcut. What they are weak point is they don't remember what rhythm. They don't remember. I take the video to give it to them. So they listen to the whole and they watching and then something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the instrumental, like the Bianca on the Mount Zion. So for the audience, that's a kettle drum, knobbed gong with a chromatic scale. It's very difficult and very ornate.
Yeah.
She did a great job.
Yeah.
But they all did a great job. They all
Yes.
did.
Yeah, they are trying to every day. They try to learn it, so that's very wonderful.
And you know, we remember we started slowly, step by step, and then as they started remembering, everyone was very, very proud that they remembered. And then Jojo starts making it get faster and faster and faster, and that's when the problem started. Remember, it was like, let's go. But that was
Yes.
super fun.
Yeah.
Jojo, can you explain just a little bit about Sinewa and why that's so important? What that is?
Sinewa, people think is Sinewa is very easy tempo. It's very easy.
It's a clapper and a bell.
Yes, yes. Look like very easy to the musician, but that's not main point is a very hard. So that's why we are professional musician. They have a specialist to the Sinewa, professional Sinewa. So all the music, main is he is sometimes he is a main Sinewa. Yeah, very important, very important. Because our music is not straight to the tempo, sometimes slow down, sometimes faster, something like that. So not same time in the other musician to the tempo. So all the time watching to me and I'm a leader, so I want to faster, I want to slow down. That's a very difficult to the Western music.
Right. It's that the concept of tempo is constantly changing and it changes every day. And I mean, as a Western pianist, like we basically choose our tempi and we do change it, but not in the same way that Burmese music does. And especially in Napwe, where the tempos really change. We really slow down and we really speed up in different ways every day. So everyone needs to pay attention to the Sinewa and everyone has to pay attention to Jojo's kind of leadership. It's like a conductor.
So, Sewe, when musicians are learning, what's amazing about these musicians is they had not heard Burmese music before. They had a year of study of other pieces with Kyaw Kyaw Naing in the Nine Ensemble, but not music, not N-O-T. So what's a part of this possibility is for us to archive not only the work that we do, the musicians that we meet at Napwez, but also to start listening, to start finding on YouTube very, very accessible sources of Napwe music, and then beginning to kind of wonder about text and for which not, and what part of the ritual. And all of that will be helped by the musicians from the Napwe ensembles who can help us understand some of those sources and a little bit of the history behind a particular knot and a particular piece. So, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yep.
That's great. So I want to shift gears a little bit and go to a discussion a little bit about tolerance and bias, because Napwe has coexisted with Buddhism in Myanmar. And I'll ask Jojo again about this, his opinion, his view. But I was wondering, Nemyo, could you tell us a little bit about what are some of these biases in Myanmar, and why is it important to bring Napwe out in a very respectful, honoring it kind of space?
Traditionally, that worship is kind of like coexist with Buddhism. It has been here for many years, way before second dynasty. But maybe because of I think Buddhism here is very strong, and also like according to Buddhism, it has been frowned upon this net worship. And the other reason is that because the country has developed a lot and going to more modernized stuff. So net worship is kind of like in a difficult situation, even though you can see many net festival and like net worshiping in real area, but more big city is kind of rare. So the biggest net festival is in Kyaw Kyaw, is once a year, monthly. So every year, many people came and come and join the festival. And another big reason why people not very close to worship is also like this is like becomes like a kind of like the isolated community, and most LGBT community also involved in this community. So I think that's also one reason sometimes people look in different perspective in this tradition. Also like they are not really used to communicating with that, and also at the same time with LGBT. So I think that there might be some reasons the people stay a little bit far from worship. But in some rural area, but this tradition is still very strong, and you can see in your daily life, from the morning until the end of the night, and also in every festival, like even like in a big city, like if you have more than, let's say, like rock concert or pop concert, you can still see like coconut and a bowl of a banana put shakes to the mat, so that the concert will be successful. So it's not entirely disappear, it's still here, but kind of like a little bit like away from public things.
Can you talk a little bit about Taso? So there was a rock musician who in 2008, 2009 used some of the dancers and the rhythms from Napwe for pop music, and to sort of portray his songs in a new way. So I'm just curious, Nemyo, can you talk a little bit about why that was difficult for the government and for some audiences?
Yeah, actually, maybe it's because we are not used to hearing different kinds of things and different kinds of like appreciation of presentations. So he mixed the net music with modern stuff, more like hip-hop, acoustic stuff. So most people who are used to listening the old style of music, it's quite difficult for them to fully appreciate this. So I'm not like judging about this is good or not. Sometimes like anything, everything which is new is to some extent is difficult because we all are kind of like stay in very isolated and not really have like same chances like other country to get more exposure and to be fully in touch with many different kinds of musical or cultural style. So sometimes it's quite difficult for some people. At the same time, from the government side, I think they have nothing like like asking not to do things or not, but still it's more like like community ideas and appreciation.
Yeah.
So, just to jump in, I saw
Sure.
a big a production of not Gojijo with like pop, like dance beats. It was like EDM, electronic dance music, and I must say I was pretty horrified too. There is something in the way that it was done. Yeah, so I hear what you're saying. Like it's on YouTube. These kind of like modernized like pop productions of
some of like in terms of creativity point of view, I think it's okay, you can do. But I think as from people from traditional background might be a little bit offensive. I think
a little offensive. I would say it's yes, yes, but
and that brings us. There's an aspect to our work that I loved Lauren when she was talking about it. Our ethnographer. Just this idea that you would respect all the time the Nats, that the Nats aren't objects. They're part of a living tradition, and they themselves supernaturally are a living tradition, and that the belief system is a living tradition, so that our approach through this project is one of humility. And that goes for the music learning as well. So, Jojo, you know, you were telling that story about Tintin and your wife, the movements for Napwe and her meditating now. So there's sometimes difference between Buddhist practice, meditating practice, and Napwe. And why? Can you talk about that a little bit? Tintin's experience?
A little difficult to explain.
Yeah.
You try.
Yeah, Buddha is a different way in the Napwe. They believe, some people they believe the Napwe because they are given to somebody or they are good luck or something like a healthy or something like that. They believe it like that. So Buddhist way is a little different. So only the prayer, meditation, and something like that. So also, she don't want to movement to the other people, look at and her body and she movement. So she thinking is she don't want to movement for the other people see to
Right.
be movement. So that's why she don't want to dancing. Not only Napwe, she don't want to no more dancing.
Yeah.
But I'm
But
trying
you
to
share
tell,
this.
yeah, I'm trying to tell her that this is we have a little chance to we explain for the wall and the people see everyone. So only one time for me, something like I request. Because this is only I am, her is here we understanding. We must do the Napwe project. We whatever we know about music and dancing, we can show to them. So she said no. I said please. She said no. And the 4 or 5 times she said okay. And we do something Napwe project.
We are so excited, and for those of you later in the project, we'll be able to show the video of Tintin dancing.
Yeah, also this song is a long time ago, 1975, around there. And the very famous dancer is her teacher, is also her teacher. So old teacher, she make it this dancing and singing or something like that. Yeah.
So one of the interesting things about dance and movement in Napwe is that there are formal occasions, ceremonies, but the concerts in which there are choreographed versions. And if you go into YouTube and you look up Goji Jaw, you'll see choreographed versions on a stage of Napwe and offerings to the Goji Jaw Na by dancers in group choreographed movement. So the difference is that the movement in the Napwe itself is much more free and is a channel for trance and possession. Yeah, so we're so thankful to Tintin La for making that choice, for helping us. Yeah. It was great, because here we are in the States without, that possibility.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yep.
So, I think about this idea. I was talking earlier with Alex about space. I have this idea about like flat space, that before COVID, everything's very flat. Like the internet's flat. Like I listen to music on the internet and it just, there's a curtain all the time. But one of the things that this project has opened up for me is the possibility of a deep dive. And that can go through the internet. And there's an intimacy, there's a recognition of understanding and friendship and communion that happens on a Zoom call in a way that I don't think I've ever experienced on the phone. And I certainly didn't experience, live talking with people in that way where strangers would come together and, there's some very powerful moments, as I'm sure all of you in the audience have experienced also. So with that in mind, I was going to ask Alex, you were in Yangon in January. You came to Gitameit and you helped us with our piano faculty and students. And we played a concert in honor of our teacher, Wu Yinwei. what is your feeling about that difference, about going to a country, you know, having a program, you're an ACC grantee, you had this sort of program of an agenda, and then coming back here and then doing this project, which you didn't know, we didn't know we would be doing in January.
Right, right. You know, so that trip was mind blowing, and I'm gonna say it like there is something amazing about going to this beautiful country and meeting with people and seeing this. It was overwhelming, and I will never forget this. So I saw Napwe with you, Kit. I worked with these beautiful musicians. It was, yeah, it was very rich. But what's special now is that this allows for a continuation of these pathways, these sights and sounds that I saw. That it was so sad to me when I got on that plane. Right? It was like, how can this continue? I will bring this with me to the ensemble and the way that we make music. But this project allows for me to kind of, you know, continue. Well, I saw that Napwe that we went to, but now this kind of, it allows me to kind of develop a relationship with it, to study more deeply, to kind of meet some of these people, online over the internet, in a way that would be impossible, that I couldn't get that kind of time to keep flying back to Myanmar. I live in New York. So in a way, it's using the internet in really the best possible way, which is to connect people, right? And to be able to keep up that conversation. So, yeah.
Yeah, and also these learning modalities, you know, that, I mean, you were talking in the very beginning about online learning, but there's this emotional quotient, EQ thing, I don't know how else to call it, but just this way of going in deeply. And I go back to us as musicians going into this, not looking at Napwe, but listening to Napwe and feeling Napwe and moving with it and learning from the Nakados that we will be able to do. And also share with younger students.
And you know, when you talk about a flat space, like a book, reading about it, looking at pictures about it, like that is all useful and it is part of education. But like this is a way to really connect people and to really, we can learn about people's stories. We can make relationships. It becomes part kind of our understanding in our lives. So at SUNY New Paltz in the music department, we're really trying to diversify, you know, in today's world. We're really trying to look at our curriculum and ask those difficult questions about what are we teaching and how are we telling the stories of people around the world, and not just an American story or a Western story, right? So this is a way actually to kind of empower Burmese artists to kind of share their stories with us. So,
yeah, I was talking earlier with Cecily about how democratic it is. You know, how we're trying for equanimity, for an equality of experience, musical experience, where there's no hierarchy. There's listening and there's listening. So it's quite. I found it to be quite powerful. Nemyo, do you have some thoughts on that? On sort of bringing the stage. Two stages, you know, Americans and Myanmar, but also just this idea of connection. What do you feel about it?
I think, you know, like in this time, it's very difficult for us, you know, to go and see and do things. I think this online thing is the only option for us, you know, and also like it can also help, you know, like to the musician, you know, the Nagaro, and people from this industry. To motivate them more in this difficult time, and help them more, you know, like to share what they learned, what they have been experiencing for their whole life. A good way to share their experience, not just to me, not just to people from Myanmar, but also from other people, not just from New Perth, all over the world.
Yeah. So if the situation continues, presumably in Myanmar also, do you have plans to, we were talking earlier about Facebook, but to develop conversations or seminars or discussion groups or invite writers? What are some of your thoughts?
For us, we are thinking like to do like something like lecture series, and also like if it is possible, I think we would like to continue this project, not just online, but also to come and see, to witness, you know, the real Napwe. Right now, we cannot really celebrate Napwe right now because of the situation. But if things get better, like inviting people from the US, from other country, and watch and see and experience not just like the sound, but also the sight, the smell, and also everything. And go to the site, like Napwe site, and go to Kyaw Kyaw Festival, and so they can be in like in the real situation, and so I think it will also like bring more and deeper understanding to people who really want to study this kind of cultural stuff.
Yeah. Dr. Nae, do you,
Yeah.
how is your feeling online? Like when we were working online together, do you feel that that's, I mean, online teaching has been going on for a long time on Messenger for many years, but it's interesting. Do you feel like teaching that way is okay?
Yeah, yeah, okay. About I want to detail what kind of question. One more time, again.
So online. So when you
Yes.
teach Sandhya online, it's
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, Sanya is okay because everyone they have a Sanya, almost right. Maybe they have a keyboard or they have a piano. Piano is very difficult. So keyboard they have a now the cheaper one, expensive one, whatever they choose. They have a touch and a keyboard. So there's a piano is easy. Yeah.
Yeah, so in the United States, Jojo Nang is one of the very few people who could teach Sandhya. Of course, they're teachers in Myanmar, but one of the things that is becoming a possibility is that could expand. Maybe he could expand to teaching certain kinds of drums to people who have those drums, or rhythm, or singing. Burmese music is rare, right? So we all know that gamelan is in many universities, but Burmese music has been on the sidelines. And what we'd like to do with this project also is to bring it more to center focus. And we skipped over a little bit, Alex. I think we have a little bit more time before we ask answer some questions from the audience. Can you tell us just about the Nine Ensemble a little more?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I actually met Jojo through you because I was really interested in the textures of Burmese piano, which is a very special, delicate, like it's a completely new sound to me. So Kit connected me with Jojo, and he started teaching me Burmese piano. It is a tradition, but from, as Jojo likes to say, from heart to heart. So he will sing me and play me the melodies, and I would just memorize as I go and I learn it. And I got a grant to do a new piece, and he said, why don't we make a full ensemble? I'll write you a piano piece and a full song ensemble. We just need 4 musicians. And I thought, oh gosh, we're gonna make a Burmese ensemble. All right. So I recruited 3 of my students, and so the 4 of us performed at Roulette in New York City, in Brooklyn, and it grew from there. He was like, well, why don't we just fill out the ensemble? Let's make it real. And then we started the first class at SUNY. So we have a 16-person class, and we taught everybody how to play all the different instruments. And we did a giant concert at SUNY, 30 minutes, where everybody learned from memory, heart to heart, as Jojo likes to say. And it's been 2 years, and it is, like, I can say, the most gratifying, thrilling musical experience of my life thus far. So there. And you know what was beautiful about online is that it empowers us to, like so when I got the ACC grant, I went with Jojo to take lessons from Uyinwe, who is his teacher as well. He's like all of our teachers, right?
And my teacher. And
he taught teacher. Right. So he taught me. We went to his house every day. Allison Hummer was with me on this trip, who is doing the film, and I worked with Uyinwe to learn a piece, Onya Nilin, and I took it home after Myanmar, and I continued to work on it. And this is how amazing it was. I did a Zoom call with him, and I played it for him and his family just like a month ago. And I was like, you know what? This is actually a possibility. So we might actually begin online this kind of lesson. So in this way, I think it's kind of exciting. Like, we can even bring the Natpwe to America. We can bring the movement here. You know, the geography is kind of conquered. So I mean, the geographical location is sort of conquered the internet. So
fantastic. So I want to thank you all. I'm going to hand this over to Cecily, I think, because I think she has a question, and then I think there's some other questions from the audience.
Okay, hang on one second. I'm okay. I guess I'm on, but yeah, this is not my question, but from the audience, and we're wondering who are the musicians in Myanmar who are playing this music, and where do they learn it? Do they learn it in an academy? Do they learn it from recordings? Do they learn it from master teachers like Kyaw Kyaw Naing? Who are they?
So I'll pass that to Nemyo.
Usually these musicians, they traditionally, it's not just this musician, but also like all kinds of traditional musicians. So they will go to their teacher and stay there for many years and study various instruments. So for the first 3 years, you know, you just helping your master and helping the house chores. And then when you get used to all those repertoire, you are allowed to touch the instrument and trying to play it. So it's more like, you know, hereditary tradition. But nowadays, you know, government opened a national university of art and culture, and also we also have like 2 state school of fine arts. So for the new generation, they might go to those government school, and still there's also some people who will go and study with great musician and dancer at their house.
I mean, that's very interesting because I know you yourself went outside of, you know, an academy or a state fund. You went to Gitameit to learn, and we've been really interested in sort of the organizations or the individuals who have been offering opportunities to learn, you know, either traditional repertory or the possibility to try something really new, which sometimes you get more of a permission to do if you're outside of like an official channel.
Yeah, Nemyo.
So, yeah. So for me, I think you know, like with like Alex and, you know, like the American SUNY students and me is kind of like in the same situation. So I grew up in rural area and not that much music happening. So for me, even though culturally very close to this tradition and music and dance, but technically I'm also very away from this. So still now I'm kind of like, you know, really, I cannot be considered like, you know, professional musicians or, you know, like the traditional musician. So I'm kind of like still, you know, outsider who live inside. So I got a chance to study with a master, but I didn't grow up in this, you know, like family or, you know, background. So to some extent, it's kind of like the same with SUNY students.
Yeah, and the other aspect of being a musician, a professional musician in a knot troupe, is that you work with a nakado, you work with a particular medium who is the director of the troupe. So wherever the troupe goes, you go. And that could be anywhere. And napways take place on the street. Businesses will sponsor a bue for 3 days. So you're there all day long, playing all day long. The Daungbyong Festival is 7-8 days in August every year. This year it was canceled. Next year, hopefully it will take place. And that's an interesting situation where you have not troops next to each other in different stalls with blaring loudspeakers. But as a musician, you follow your troupe, and so you play the music that is with your cohort, your troupe, and the mediums in your group. And I think, let's see, I think that was the main question. Are there any other questions that we can?
Talking about sort of the ethics of learning a new art form, and how do we avoid these issues of sort of cultural appropriation, where you're employing a technique and then, but trying to put it into your own context. Is this something that that you all are talking about within this within your
Oh,
project?
you know, it's funny because I just spoke to a class of students about this particular topic. Burmese American students, part of this project, wanting to let this sounds of Burmese music infuse their work. And actually, one student composed a new piece. He did not call it Burmese music, but he was like, "How do you like it?" And he said, "Do you hear the influence?" And I did. It's a brilliant saxophone piece, and he used other types of percussion. But it had a distinct Burmese feel in terms of the on-offbeat rhythms. And I talked to them about this notion of cultural appropriation. And I think it's really important to understand this in the context of the systemic inequities that occur all around us all the time. That there is a culture of dominance, and there's a sense of this kind of inequity in our system or as it is. And in checking that, you can understand better whether something is misappropriated or not. So more specifically, I think it's really important questions of permission and questions of proper credit. And you know, in Jojo Naing's life, it's almost a case study, and I point this out to our students. The instances where it was something done with, because all musical cultures, all music appropriates. We share, music has no boundaries, actually. We share influences and ideas, and it is in a perfect world that can all coexist beautifully. But we do have a political system where there is a sense of dominance and a dominant culture. So when a culture takes music and benefits off of it, when the dominant culture does, then that doesn't have such a good feel. It's not a very innocent place. It's not a respectful sharing anymore. So I try to explain this to the students, and to be just really aware of what kinds of permissions, how they are using the music, how they're borrowing it, how they credit it, and understanding their place in culture, actually. So I don't know, it's a very long topic, but it's something that we all struggle, that we all think about, and we must think about every single time we're engaged in this. So
yeah, we're going to get into sort of a battle of all these different questions, but we have a really interesting question, and maybe this is a fairly quick answer about pitch and about tuning a Western piano or another Western instrument to for Burmese music for Sandaya.
So let's direct that to Jojo Naing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Jojo, pitch, the problem of tuning with a piano with Burmese instruments, is that a problem for you?
This a long time ago we have a big problem in our country, because tune is Asia tune is a little different to Western tune. So they are like a D is okay, C major is C is okay. After that, D is a little bit up tune. So like a very different is a Mi. Mi is we are a lot of low regular, and a little bit lower. Also T is a B, right? B is a little bit lower. So we not match to the play together for the piano and the Burmese Sangwai. So we are trying to do many recording. We got a lot of problems. So they want to singing, sometimes sing vocalists that they think C is good for them, but their voice is not matched for the C. They need to change the key is a G. So the piano is easy to change a G. So other my drum easy, but other G now, Mao Zai, so other different instrument is very difficult because not match to the tune. So after that we follow to the tune for the piano tune. We are prepared. So now is everywhere is same tune, and whatever you change the key, D okay, E flat okay, E okay. Every key is okay now because we are like a piano tune, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no tradition. But tradition is different scale, different songs.
Yeah. And sometimes
Different tune. Sorry. Yeah.
right, sorry. And just that you can get used to the non-match. It doesn't match, but we get used to it somehow, you know. It can be it actually can be its own world, its own sound world.
Yeah, now it's okay. Now it's we tune to the piano tune, same thing. Now it's okay.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm gonna jump in. Oh, sorry. We're wondering here. We have a couple of different questions about what is the popularity of traditional music in Myanmar amongst young people?
I'll ask Nemyo to answer that.
Yeah, this question is many people ask every time I met, especially in foreigner. I think here the popularity of traditional music and band is it's quite a difficult situation. Most younger generation, they are more into like popular music and K-pop, rock, hip-hop, those things. So sometimes people kind of like blame the younger generation about not interesting in their traditional culture and music. But if we look from another point of view, it's not just the fault of younger generation, and also that because of what we are lack in this country, we do not have like music library, or we do not have a place to go and study music. We do not have archive which like put all those kind of traditional stuff so that people can get access. So it's quite difficult for the younger generation to fully appreciate this traditional music and culture, because the culture and also this traditional music and dance is not around them usually. They are always surrounded by modern things, modernized, developed things, popular music. So when it's come to like appreciate this traditional music, it's very difficult for them to understand. Even in our Gitameit Music Institute, we depend our income mainly on Western music. So sometimes we do big traditional music concert so that they can get a chance to listen and watch the dance and music. But most of the time they try to stay away from it. So, but we just keep trying. Like over time, it will be successful, and they might interested in this tradition. At the same time, this kind of project with SUNY, I think it will really encourage them, and so it will make them curious about their own culture, to go back and study, at least to listen and watch a little bit. Maybe if they don't study, it's still okay, but to understand a little bit and to be able to appreciate a little bit. I think it will get better in the future.
I think it will, and I think this project is a way forward. So Cecily, thank you so much. Alex,
Yes.
thank you. Myo Aung, thank you. Kyaw Naing, thank you.
Thank you all. I'm gonna wrap it up, but thank you, Kyaw Naing, Nemyo, and Alex. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining us tonight for this In Dialogue series. The next scheduled talk that we have is on September 23rd at 9:00 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And this is with ACC alumni Leroy New, Ea Tirado, and JK Anacoche from the Philippines. And we're sorry to say goodnight right now, but we look forward to continuing this conversation and this extraordinary project. Everybody, please keep well and keep the conversation going. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.